Welcome to Conspiracy Shit Chat. Warning, you may find the views and opinions expressed in this show shocking and true. Viewer discretion is advised.
Conspiracy Chat with Heretic, sitting to my right, or to your left, and Mrs. Mel Gibson. Now they're coming to you live and personally. It's a bit hairy around here, so if we sound on edge, that'll be why. Gentlemen of conspiracism.
Scooby-Doo, how are you? This is me, Mrs. Mel Gibson, to my right. It's Heretic. Right, so Heretic, let's get going. What are we going to talk about this week?
We're going to be talking about the police
Police,
and Scientology.
Scientology. I'm afraid we do have to start the show on a rather sour note. I mean, we've received some rather tragically sad breaking news regarding Dr. Ron Paul. I have to announce that he has been assassinated, and the method of the assassination has been kind of tested by ballistics experts, and they reckon that it was a frisbee.
Did the frisbee come from the grassy knoll?
Initial reports are saying that it came from a Texas school book suppository, but we're still waiting for further news, since obviously it is a fresh story. Right, let's get topical. Syria, Heretic, what's going on in Syria? You Syria.
It's Libya all over again, basically. It's quite hard to know, isn't it, if you're not in Syria.
We've only got that lovely Syrian bird on the internet to rely on, don't we?
That's why Middle Eastern men put their women in burqas.
Yeah.
It's just too fucking hot.
She's a fox. She's a hottie. You must have seen Keelan's impressive video where he dissects the Assad interview with
Barbara
Barbara Walters, yeah.
Old snake face.
Yeah,
Brilliant, wasn't it?
very good.
And Tom Secker,
Yeah.
investigating the terror.com, he did a funny article the other day, Nazi pigeons.
Nazi pigeons. We have ways of making you squawk! This is a sample from Tom Secker's wonderful article, which I recommend that you all have a look at. Any Nazi biloddies out there, I do recommend you have a look at Tom Secker's Nazi pigeon article, and here's a little sampler for you. Pigeons are not the only animal suspects accused of working for the intelligence services. In late 2010, shark attacks near Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt were blamed on the Mossad. Israel also have been accused of sending a pelican and a vulture, both with GPS equipment and tags from Tel Aviv University, to spy in the Sudan. In early 2011, another vulture was captured in Saudi Arabia, bearing similar equipment. The vulture was later released without charge. That was all courtesy of Mick Jagger.
Yeah, we're not making it up either.
No.
Yeah, it's funny how truth is sometimes more amusing than fiction. And here's some words of wisdom from Mark Glenn.
There is a point at which even the most immoral, rudderless whore will stop and say, that's just too kinky for me. I'm not going to do it.
But we don't necessarily dislike the people that we lampoon on the show, do we?
No. In fact, often it's a form of flattery, isn't it? Now everybody's in a bit of a panic on the internet. What with all this sopa and pippa business, and I bet Spanish people are confused because sopa means soup in Spanish.
Yeah, and also Sopa and Pippa's not to be confused with 80s pop trio Salt and Pepper.
Yeah, the push it, yeah. Now, we're all concerned about the Stop Online Piracy Act and Protect IP Act and ACTA and all that stuff. I'm particularly concerned because it's really drastically going to alter my wanking habits, Heretic.
Yeah, no more free porn.
As per any normal evening, Heretic, when one is lonely, you go on Google and you search for your favourite websites. And Google informed me that I'd been on muffmuncher.com 14 times in the last 3 weeks. And I was shocked. It was right there at the bottom. Visited 14 times, and I thought, shit. What if some, prospective employer got a load of that bunkum on the internet?
The internet is relatively young, and we have no idea what effect all of this is going to have on future generations.
Yeah.
And that's if the internet stays the way it is.
And it seems to be amorphous. It seems to be like this organic creature that can even outgrow its users and become something bigger than all of us. It is us, but beyond us also.
hive mind.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a virtual copy of the collective consciousness for everyone to look at whenever they want. It's pretty awesome when you think about what the internet really is, or even what it will be if, it doesn't get curtailed by these munchkins.
But the thing with these acts is obviously they take the whole copyright thing to a whole new level. I mean, can you imagine doing this show and not being able to use pictures from Google Images? Imagine how difficult it would be to create content. YouTube is becoming FaceTube, isn't it, soon? Well, now, actually.
Yeah.
By the time you watch this.
Eventually people will just have to leave their bedrooms and actually take to the streets. Here we are lamenting the demise of YouTube as we knew it. But let's not forget that it's a website, isn't it? It's just a thing on the internet. Isn't it far more powerful and profound to actually get your own physical body out of the building and join others? But it really is going to interfere with my wanking timetable.
You're going to have to go old school.
Mm.
You're going to have to get the old Littlewoods catalogue out.
Yeah.
In the lingerie section.
Freeman's catalogue, I prefer.
James Corbett's wife's not going to be happy, is she?
Oh, is she not horny? Not no more. James Corbett, you've been wanking on internet again. I was walking into a house and I see you wanking in bedroom window. You was bad boy, Corbett.
Let's talk about the police.
Roxanne, you don't have to put on a red light.
Yeah, I've been watching Coppers on Channel 4.
For American listeners, what are coppers?
The filth, fuzz, the pigs.
The Babylon. It's the coppers, isn't it? It's the police. So what is the premise of this show, Coppers, Heretic?
Yeah, well, it's a reality show. Basically, camera crew follow around British coppers. Not set in London, though. These cop shows are never set in London for some reason. Anyway, you get to see the police being the police. A lot of them came across as being very arrogant. You get the impression that the uniform in of itself should command respect.
So it's like an obligation of ours as citizens to show respect.
They seem to think we're all benefit cheats. They're like any cult in that they have a persecution complex.
When you don't like a person, it can be an irrational dislike. If you're a policeman, you can actually enact a certain amount of force to aggravate the person you dislike just because you don't like the person.
It's amazing how much time the coppers in the show devoted to harassing hecklers and homeless people.
Now, I'm listening to you give your analysis of the police, and I can't help playing devil's advocate here. Won't they think that we're just being a couple of crack-headed, benefit-scrounging urchins who, of course, have a lot of hatred for the police,
I do feel sorry for the police sometimes. When you see how a lot of activists carry on, you can't help but root for the police. I mean, can you imagine police in a protest and having crusties like screaming in your face, "You fascist! Stop aggressing me!"
Yeah, I have to say, you get that a lot with the TPUC, like the Freemen on the Land type people. Like, I'm sure those people that got busted for not handing in the census last year, but I guarantee you those people were the ones who were vocally not handing in the form. Whereas the smart thing to do is just to keep your mouth shut and let it pass. But it's the people who wanted to kind of practice their Freeman psychology on the police and see if they could overturn legal nonsense and stuff. Is there a general kind of sympathy for the police then in reviewing this series, or do you still generally think they're arrogant bastards?
Well, it's interesting. There was an episode where they had new recruits. So they'd just come out of the police academy. And you had this young copper, and he was like, "Oh, I joined the police force because I'm a very fair person. I believe in justice. I want to help people." And you think, you're going to be in for a rude awakening, mate.
Yeah.
So this idealistic young rookie is with this other copper, and then he stopped this crackhead, and he's yabbering away to the new recruit, and the new recruit's just humouring him a little bit. And the other copper's standing a few metres away, and he's just got his arms folded. And you think, well, he's the one that stopped the car, and he's not saying anything. And then when it came time for the coppers to go, the crackhead said to the rookie, "Oh, you're all right, you are. But the other one, he's all right, Spanner." And this other cop goes charging in, grabs hold of him, slams him up against the van. "Right, I'm arresting you." And the rookie's just standing there like, what the fuck's just happened?
You're under arrest for hurting my feelings, basically, isn't it?
The old hand copper, he was going to the rookie, people have to respect you. If people don't respect you, then you're nothing. And all this. And I'm thinking, well, that's not a good way of getting people to respect you, is it?
That's a very Cockney gangland gangster sort of attitude, isn't it?
At the end of the episode, it turned out that the rookie didn't have what it took.
Too much moral and ethical fibre for the police force.
Too reasonable.
Yeah.
It's like they're addicted to arresting people. And you get the impression that if there weren't any criminals to arrest, they would invent some to arrest.
Would they start arresting each other, you reckon? Oh, Heretic! Phone's ringing. It's the conspiracy hotline, isn't it?
Answer it.
I'll answer it now, yeah. Hello?
Oh, it's your auntie.
Oh, wow, it's Auntie.
You know, it's very rude and very disrespectful to not give your auntie Semite a call. I love listening to your show, man, and I'll have to flick myself over your voices as you talk about conspiracies and shit.
How's the cat? I remember a cat you used to have, Auntie.
Oh, no, he's dead. Oh, my ex-husband basically sacrificed him to one of the many reptilian gods that we worship. And I fucking hate that son of a bitch, that Schlemiel. You know, I think he hated Jewish people just as much as I do. But he just didn't want to admit it, you know.
I was always confused about something. What's the difference between a cat flap and a cat's flaps?
Well, let me put it this way. A cat flap you can go in and out of. But a cat's flaps, once you're in there, buddy, you have to get it surgically removed. And I'd love to have you two lovely beasts between my legs, if you know what I mean.
But we're relatives.
Relatives? That don't mean shit, honey.
Well, thanks for your call, Auntie. I mean, it's been really nice speaking to you again, and I won't leave it so long next time.
You gotta call sometimes. You gotta call more often. You know, you can't leave your auntie and your mother hang on a fucking piece of string.
Okay, shalom. Shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
Is Mike Rivera Jewish? Oh, he's a bit Jewish, isn't he? He's Jewish.
Mike Rivera's got Nazi Tourette's, though, isn't he?
Mm.
Keeps banging on about Nazis all the time. Mike Rivera's a big Star Wars fan, isn't he? I think a lot of it's to do with that. I mean, you've got stormtroopers, haven't you? You've got the old Imperial officers.
The colour palette, red, white, black.
Yeah, I mean, you're learning via osmosis, aren't you?
Mm.
What did he? Oh, wanna, walker.
Heretic, do you know of a method that can make us really, really rich?
We could invent a religion.
That reminds me of a famous phrase by some bloke called L. Ron Hubbard.
We're talking about Scientology.
Yeah, are they just a bunch of silly cults?
Yeah, everyone makes fun of Scientology, so we thought we might as well have a...
There we go, yeah.
Are you a suppressive person?
I'm often treated like one, yeah. The Xenu. Now, of course, you know, I shouldn't have mentioned Xenu because you're not actually qualified to know that name yet, because you have to be at least an operating Thetan 3, I think, before the mythology of the Xenu is revealed to you. Isn't that right, Heretic?
The Wall of Fire.
The Wall of Fire.
Hubbard said that if you learn OT3 before you're ready, you'll die of pneumonia.
Why not rug burn? Make anything up, do you know what I mean? You mustn't do it or you'll get rickets. So OT3, if you're an operating Thetan, you become privy to the Xenu story, don't you? So Heretic, what's all that bunkum about then?
Apparently, 75 million years ago, Xenu, was he ruler of the Galactic Confederacy or something?
Yeah, something like that.
He took a load of people from his planet, he imprisoned them in volcanoes on Earth, and he blew them up. Then he captured their souls with a vacuum cleaner, and then he brainwashed the souls with a 3D film.
These are the Thetans.
Yeah, and they're supposed to cluster together and attach themselves to humans, and that's why we do bad things, apparently.
Yeah. Creatures that were captured by Xenu, they've attached to people, haven't they? Like our psychosis, our meanness, our pettiness and selfishness. These are engrams, these are the Thetans embodying human beings.
It does sound a bit like Gnosticism, but Hubbard was mates with Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons.
That's right, yeah.
Do you think they bummed each other?
Probably, with wands. Have some of that, Harry Potter. So, this information that you've just spunked out, Heretic, how much would that actually cost a Scientologist to learn that?
$33,000.
Right.
But I think that includes the OT levels that you would do to get to that point as well.
Or, alternatively, you could just read it online for free.
Yeah.
For nothing. Hubbard was a very colourful character, wasn't he?
He wrote those funny books, didn't he?
Yeah, he did those Scientology books.
You've got quite a collection, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got Dianetics, What is Scientology, and Science of Survival.
Hubbard gave his son loads of amphetamines and started recording what he would say. So his son, he was like out of his trolley on amphetamines.
Scrape him off the fucking ceiling.
He started talking about how in a past life he was a clam. And that's actually, I think that's in History of Man or Science of Survival. It's in one of those two.
That's a Booker Prize winner right there, isn't it? Now, David Miscavige is the CEO of Scientology. And there is some mystery as to how L. Ron Hubbard actually died, leaving the position open to David Miscavige. And there are some rumours that David Miscavige may have had a hand in L. Ron Hubbard's demise.
And Miscavige has been accused of beating up his staff, hasn't he?
Yeah, think of like the prototypical evil CEO in a suit. Patrick Bateman from American Psycho. He was Tom Cruise's best man at Tom Cruise's wedding.
Well, somebody had to be his best man.
Yeah.
Although we laugh about Scientology, in the 70s they had something called Operation Snow White. So they infiltrated all those government agencies.
Like proper infiltrated, intelligence databases. And this kind of keys into this notion of don't ever cross the Church of Scientology. Don't ever attack Scientology, because if that's the case, you will become fair gamed, as they call it, where they will just hire people, undercover people, to just hound you forever. And they consider it fair game because you dared to challenge them. I do recommend you watch Xenu TV on YouTube, which is Mark Bunker, yeah. Bloke with a beard. He knows the ins and outs of Scientology.
And there's Tori Magoo. She used to be a Scientologist, and her job was basically to shill for Scientology on web forums and defend Scientology. In the process of doing so, she ended up wanting to leave Scientology herself.
Yeah. And this is a very common feature as well. These broken families.
They call it disconnection. It's their form of shunning.
Yeah. My second cousin is a Scientologist. This is true. Right. She's been one for years, and she's perfectly normal. Like, you wouldn't tell she was one, except, she can see through walls. All right, Heretic, so what we learned?
Well, I've learned that as far as the police are concerned, there are two sides to every story. One side of the story is that the police have to put up with a lot of shit, and they do a very tough job.
And the other side of the story, of course, is that they're all just a bunch of cunts. And
we also learned the reason why there are bad people in the world is because some geezer made a load of aliens watch Jaws 3D.
Right. Now, apparently, the platypus can lay its own eggs and produce its own milk, which means it's the only species in the entire animal kingdom that can make its own custard.
Welcome to Truth Spunk. Truth Spunk. My name is Jürgen Vendeklep. I am the founder and organizer of the Truth Spunk Festival. Now are you prepared for the coming cataclysm? I have spent the last 10 years collecting provisions. I have my collection of Frank Zappa LPs and about 20,000 packets of Monster Munch. Prepare. You know, conspiracists always go on about Bill fucking Cooper, Justus Mullins, and David Ray Griffin. But no one talks about one man who has changed the face of the earth and helped people in their messes to wake up. To many he is just a mockney, cockney, culinary twat. But no, this man has saved my life.
In his groundbreaking book, 30-Minute Meals, Jamie uses a steak and kidney cockpot to describe secret Masonic symbolism. And this innocent-looking colander is in fact an ancient Egyptian sun symbol.
It was J.B. Oliver's amazing lecture at last year's Truth Spunk at Hyde Park that made the news on television. Truth Spunk 2012 is going to be amazing. We're going to have live talks by David Icke and Terry Nutkins. So come along and wake up.
Truth Spunk! We cut off the arms of all the inoculated children.
He did have a history of gang-related crime.
Didn't he have like 19 kids as well?
Of course, that's not racist, is it?
No.
Right.
Liberal middle class. What are they going to think of that?
They would choke on their Ferrero Rocher.
Yeah, they would. Did you hear about Whitney Houston?
La me want dance with somebody.
Oh, what is that? I beat your bald head with spatula. You're not a boy!